Would you eat food that was causing rats and hamsters to have sexual reproductive organ problems? Would you eat food that was causing insect stomachs to explode? Did you know that you most likely already are? According to the Center for Food Safety, found at centerforfoodsafety.org, 75% of all processed food in America contains genetically modified organisms, or GMOs. The health and environmental concerns pertaining to GMO foods are on the rise. Now, I know from my class survey that 50% of my classmates have no knowledge about genetically modified foods. So today I'm going to share with you the dangers that they pose both to our health and our environment, the causes for these problems, and also what we can do to educate ourselves and protect ourselves. To begin with, I'm going to share with you the problems that genetically modified foods cause to our health and our environment. The amount of GM foods that are consumed by Americans on a daily basis is on the rise. 75% of all of our food contains genetically modified ingredients. According to the Center for Food Safety website, this is an increase of 25% since the 1990s. Now, according to my class survey, I know that 80% of all of my classmates consume junk food on a regular basis, more than 5 times a week. Now, 75% of all of that food contains genetically modified ingredients. According to the article, Genetically Modified Soy Linked to Sterility and Infant Mortality in Hamsters by Jeffrey Smith, posted April 20th, 2010, and found on the HuffingtonPost.com, hamsters that were fed genetically modified soy had major changes in their reproductive organs. This report was performed by Russian biologist Alexei Surov, and in his study he found that genetically modified soy that was fed to hamsters, these hamsters had a 50% mortality rate. Those that were not fed genetically modified soy had only a 10% mortality rate. He also noted in his study that the hamsters that were fed genetically modified soy had only 40 pups in their lifetime. Those that were not fed genetically modified soy had 78 pups in their lifetime. In the web article titled, Eating This Could Turn Your Gut into a Living Pesticide Factory by Dr. Joseph Mercola, posted January 29, 2013, found on the Huffington Post website, Dr. Mercola warns of the dangers of the Bt toxin. Bacillus thuringiensis, or Bt, is a pesticide that Monsanto has engineered into their corn. And what this does is it causes the guts of insects that eat it to explode. Now, despite Monsanto's claims that this toxin cannot be transferred to humans, in 2009, doctors at Sherbrooke University Hospital in Quebec found the Bt toxin in 93% of pregnant women's blood. It was also found in 83% of umbilical cord blood and 64% of unpregnant women's blood. Environmental issues are also on the rise from genetically modified foods. In the briefing titled Environmental and Health Impacts of GM Crops, The Science, posted September 2011 and found on greenpeace.org, GM crops threaten the water and soil systems. Now, according to this briefing, Monsanto genetically engineers their plants to contain Roundup. And what happens is the Roundup is transferred through the roots of the plant into the soil, effectively poisoning the soil source. In the same way, Roundup is then transferred into the water systems surrounding these crop fields. So not only does it poison the soil, it poisons the water surrounding it. In this briefing, it also states that herbicides are on the rise because of genetically modified foods. These Roundup corn crops are being crossbred with weeds. And as the weeds become resistant to the herbicides, they need more and more herbicides to keep the weeds from growing. So more and more herbicides are being used on the food that you and I eat every day. Now that you know the magnitude of the GM foods that we're consuming and the major health and environmental impacts that they pose, I would like to share with you the cause for this problem. Now, the major cause for the increase of environmental and health issues from eating genetically modified foods is really education. We don't know that we're eating genetically modified foods. According to the website Center for Food Safety in 2012, the FDA announced that in 2000, labeling GM foods would remain voluntary. In the United States, you do not have to label whether or not your food contains a genetically modified ingredient. We are one of the only countries that does this. China, Australia, Japan, the countries in the European Union, they all have to label whether or not food contains genetically modified ingredients. Now, despite the fact that in polls, 90% of Americans said that they want to know what's in their food, and according to my survey, 85% of my classmates also want to know what's in their food, this is not mandatory in the United States. Now that you know why genetically modified foods are increasingly showing up in your diet, I would like to share with you what you can do about it. There are two major things you can do to stop your consumption of genetically modified foods. And one of them is to educate yourself so that you know what you're eating. On the website, Center for Food Safety, they actually have a downloadable guide that tells you all of the foods that contain genetically modified ingredients. It's called the True Food Shopper's Guide, How to Avoid Foods Made with Genetically Modified Organisms. They also have an app for your iPhone that you can download as well that you can use when you're in the grocery store so you know if your food contains genetically modified ingredients. Another thing that we need to do is we need to take action. This is a very important issue, and each of us have a voice, and that voice needs to be heard. You can go to justlabel.org and you can sign a petition to let Congress and the FDA know that we demand to know what's in our food, just like all of the other countries know what's in their food. In conclusion, I hope that you have learned valuable information about how genetically modified foods pose an immense danger to your health and to our environment. Today, I have shared with you how genetically modified foods are poisoning your food, causing detrimental damage to our environment, and also the causes of why this is happening and what you can do about it. With this information, I hope that you now have the tools to further educate yourselves and also your loved ones and keep these dangerous foods out of your diet.